I mean, what I find myself doing with some of the pro athletes is recognizing the injury and say, you're okay to train, just don't do this. And I don't do that with young athletes because they're kind of young and dumb. I never trust a 15-year-old with any type of advice like that. But if we're talking with the pro athlete that's going to do something anyways, then having that adjunct. I remember when Uriah, at the age of 40, returned back to the UFC. So Uriah Faber, prior champion, retired. Love him for making a comeback because that's just how he is mentally, so mentally strong. And right when he decided to come back to the UFC and have a comeback fight as a 40-year-old retired UFC veteran, he suffered an AC sprain. And he's still stuck with the plan. He goes, I'm still going to train. Although my AC joint's a bit jacked from falling on it, the fight's 7 weeks away, I'm still going to do this. And really, the only way I could kind of help him there was say, just don't do this. And then I told him what not to do. He said, fine, I'll work within that. I'll train these ways. We let it heal with the help of, with a nice doc in the area, gave him a nice little PRP injection. He did some BFR, of course. He did some rehab to it. But during the rehab process, he still trained around the injury. I think that's the lesson of pro athletes, is that they're going to work. They're going to do work whether or not the therapist or the coach say so, and you got to guide them. Do this, don't do that, because you have to understand the tissue involved.
But there's like the rehab or the management scenario too, right? And we kind of end up falling into both of these at different times. And depending on the high schooler versus the pro guy scenario, who we communicate with this might change, right? With the pro athlete, maybe you're communicating with the organization or the coach or whatever it is. You're communicating with somebody on, can this guy go? Well, here are the risks that are involved in this, and then here are the things they can still do, and here are the things they can't. And maybe with the high school kid, it's the parent and the kid that ultimately make the decision on when they play. Yeah. And so kind of who you educate on the risk factors here, and it really is like a risk assessment when you're talking about management of an injury.
And those managements, they can come in the acute phase. Like in the acute phase, it's how much time can you buy? Like what you consider a lot is timing. Like where are we at in the season? What's most important? Like we work with one of the more perennial football powerhouses in all of California, up here with Folsom High, and so we would get the star running back in here on week 2 with an MCL sprain and be like, coach is asking me, hey, can you play this week? I'm like, well, what's this week? Is it more of like a preseason scrub game, or is it a league division game? And it's thankfully in his favor, it was less of a game that basically the team could win without him. It's like, all right, I think this thing needs at least like 2 or 3 weeks of healing, and then I don't really need to do corrective work in that moment. You're not going to choose to change someone's movement patterns in in-season pattern or in-season play. You're just going to help them heal the tissues, stay conditioned, so that then week 4 hits around, they're ready to go. And that's like that's true management right there. Like you don't recognize in season in these really shortened time frames that you're going to change the person, get them back to their previous self, which was probably a high level performer relatively, and then make sure they don't decondition so that when they get onto the field, they're not just huffing and puffing after like 2 downs, And then I think you get a little bit more elaborate with an out-of-season management, and you get to communicate a lot more effectively. Say like, hey, let's just kind of like take off these certain stresses from your training load. Let's back it off here. Let's maybe not play this weekend. Let's do these things. I think that a true challenge in return to sport is like recognizing, is it in season or is it out of season, and just knowing and trusting your understanding of tissue timeline healing patterns, and then what it takes to actually return to that position.